Finally, tomorrow is race day. I'm going to share with you the gear I'm going to wear and my strategy for this hilly 15K. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Running Otaku. I am the Running Otaku, and today we're going to talk about race prep. You see, tomorrow I've got a 15K, and it's the first race I've done in several months. In fact, it's the first race I've done in this marathon training cycle, which started 10 weeks ago. So I'm really excited because it'll be kind of my first real test of where my fitness level is. The race takes place in Salem, Oregon, which is the state capital. It's about an hour or so south of Portland here. And I didn't know until I moved to Portland, but Oregon has wine country, and this race is smack dab in the middle of that wine country. So even though we're probably about 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles north of the much more famous Napa Valley, you can see here the terrain is really reminiscent of Napa Valley or the wine regions you might find in France or in Italy. Because it's in wine country, that means it's going to be a little bit hilly. And so I wanted to take a look at the course map, the elevation profile, and figure out how I should pace myself. And I'll get into that in just a second. But first, let me share with you the gear I'm going to be wearing for tomorrow. So first up is my race singlet. As you can see here, it says Portland Running Company. It's the name of a shoe store here in Portland and the sponsor for our race team. So if you're ever in Portland and need running gear, check it out for sure. And my short shorts here. Next up, this is optional. I'm not sure if I'm going to wear it, but this is a compression top and it's actually kind of thick. Since it's going to be a little bit cold tomorrow, I thought I might wear a top underneath. Now I've worn this top for 2+ hour runs, so I know it won't affect me too much. And then my sweats here. So the race is 15K, but I'll probably do 5K warm up and another 5K cool down. And I want to stay warm, so these are the sweats. Socks. So the racing flats that I'll show you in just a moment get kind of cold. They're well ventilated, which is great in the summer, but not as great in the winter. So these socks are a little bit thicker, and I'll be happy with those. And then I've got these kind of compression socks, or kind of calf warmers, if you will. I guess functionally they serve some purpose, but I just wear them just to keep the bottom of my legs warm. Speaking of the cold, you can see here are my gloves and my hat. Now, I'm not trying to be a hero here. I'm going to wear whatever keeps me warm and comfortable. And this is my sweat jacket. It's actually rainproof. It's not supposed to rain tomorrow, but we're not far from Portland and it rains a lot here. So just in case, just for warm up and cool down. And this is the gel. Now, it's only an hour race and you don't need a gel, but I'm going to be taking one anyways because I want to start practicing taking gels in race conditions. As this is sort of a dress rehearsal for the marathon coming up in a couple of months. And this gel here is the Martin. A lot of people are talking about it. It's extremely expensive. It's like this one little packet is like $350 US. Oh well, but I'll give it a try. I've been using it on some training runs and I kind of like it, but this pull tab is problematic. I kind of use my teeth and pull it, and about 3 out of 5 times that I've tried that, it's ripped in the wrong place and I actually haven't been able to get any of the gel out of it. So I'm going to practice using my hands and seeing if I can actually take this gel in a race situation. And then maybe most importantly, the shoes. So as you can see here, I will be wearing my Skechers Razor 3s. I like them very much for anything less than about an hour or so of hard running, and this should be just about an hour's race. And as you can see here, I have the Stride foot pod affixed to that, and I'll get into a little bit more about the use of power in the race in just a moment. Now, as it turns out, just last week, I bought these beauties. These are the Nike Vaporfly 4%. It's a new blue color here. Matches the singlet nicely, right? I actually have not even worn them yet. These things are precious, right? I think you only get about 100 miles out of them or 160 kilometers before the cushioning falls apart. And tomorrow's not ideal race conditions, so I'm not going to wear them for that race, but we have another 15K in a month, and I have a 8-mile marathon pace tempo run. So I'll be using it for both of those. So I'll wear it at least 2 or 3 times before I use them for the Boston Marathon. So I will be running with my Apple Watch 4, as you see here, and not with my trusty Garmin 235. And that's because I really like the readability. And since this is a race and I don't need to start and stop and do a lot of lap splits, I actually prefer using the Apple Watch over the Garmin whenever possible. So when I use my Apple Watch 4 with Stride, I set 5 data fields, as you can see here. So the top one in the big numbers is the elapsed time for the race. And then the row below that, I will have my average pace for each mile. It will reset for each mile, and that pace is in terms of minutes per mile. And then I will have my wattage, and what it will do is it'll take the rolling 3-second average of my current wattage. And then on the bottom row, I'll have the total distance in terms of miles. And I like to look at cadence. So this last one is steps per minute. And I will keep my cadence at least at 180 steps per minute and probably closer to 190 as much as possible. Okay, so let's get into a bit more detail about this race tomorrow. So as you can see here, this is the course profile. It's 15K, which is 9.3 miles. And here's the start, the 5K, the 10K, and the finish, of course. And you can see it's a steep downhill the first 5K. The next 5K is more or less flat-ish, and then a long, slow climb up that last 5K. To give this a little bit more detail, so you can see here 3 to 4% gradient up here, and then pretty steep, 7 to 9% all the way down here, so quite steep. And then on the climb, this is a 9% gradient right here, which is pretty steep, and then 3 to 6%. So this course is by no means flat. In fact, if we look at this final climb, it goes from 203 feet above sea level, or 62 meters, all the way to 712 feet, or 217 meters. So that comes out to, as you can see here, 2.7 miles, or 4.3 kilometers, at an average gradient of 3.6%. So that is quite steep. So that begs the question, so how do you kind of prepare for a race like this where it's not flat? And the simple answer is, well, you want to maintain more or less an even effort all the way through. But that's a little bit hard to gauge when you've got such extremes, up and downhill. Fortunately, with the power meter, it becomes easier because you can basically just say, okay, I want to run at this wattage and stick to it. But there's some caveats with that. So if we go into this next slide here, my 1 hour FTP, which stands for functional threshold power, or essentially what is the maximum power I can sustain running for 1 hour, is 270 watts, which translates for me to 6 minutes, 20 seconds per mile, or 356 per kilometer. So if I were to run that for this 15K, my estimated finish would be 59 minutes and 3 seconds. Again, that's assuming a flat course, which this is far from. So how do I kind of estimate what I think I can do on this course? Well, here we go, numbers. Okay, so what I did is I broke this down into miles, and for each mile, the average gradient, so mile 1 is slightly uphill, plus 0.7%. Mile 2 is way downhill, minus 5.9%, etc. And then the wattage and the pace in terms of miles and kilometers. Now, ideally, I would like to hold 270 watts the whole way, but I know I'm going to go out a little too fast the first mile because that's what I do. So I have 275 watts. And I know from a previous race that running downhill, it's almost impossible to maintain wattage. You just kind of fall on your face. It's hard to do. So for these kinds of steep gradients down, I think I can do about 243, 246 watts in that range. That translates into a much faster pace than on the flat, of course. So as you can see here, this mile 2, I'm expecting around 546 or 335 per kilometer. And then all the way through, you can see. Now, what I am not too sure about are mile 7 and 8, where they're really steep uphill, because I've never tried to maintain an roughly 270 watt effort up that steep of an incline for that long. So I'm not quite sure here. This is where I'm guessing because I don't really have the data. But I'm assuming that, for instance, this really steep mile 7, I'll do somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 minutes 20 seconds for that mile, or the pace of 5 minutes 11 seconds. So quite slow there, and we'll see. But at any rate, if I'm more or less accurate with these, my projected finish time would be 1 hour and 3 minutes and 52 seconds. So almost 5 minutes, well over 4 minutes slower than if it were a flat course. So we'll have to see. Now, I'm not going to focus too hard on the wattage because I've got my teammates whom I'm running with or against. And about 2 months ago, we did a 5K, and there were 3 guys on the team that were about 30 seconds ahead of me. So pretty good ways ahead, but not way ahead, because there's other guys on the team that are minutes ahead of me. And I'm hoping that at least relative to those 3, I've improved a little bit. So what I plan on doing is actually going out with them and holding them as long as I can. Maybe I could even finish with them, we'll see. If not, if they drop me, then my plan B is to fall back to that 270 watts and just maintain that all the way through. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so that's about it. I'll let you know how it goes in a follow-up video. I'm really excited to see because this will be the first real gauge of my fitness level because I only have 8 weeks left of training before the Boston Marathon. So if you liked what you saw, please click the like button. If you really liked what you saw, then go ahead and click subscribe and that little bell next to it. That way you'll be instantly notified every time I upload a new video. So that's it for now. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.